What's up, Vortex Nation? Today we are going to be learning all about the Razer HD 4000 GB Ballistic Laser Rangefinder, how to set it up, and how to use it. The first thing you are going to want to do after taking your Razer HD 4000 GB out of the box is remove the red disc from under the battery. The battery is located on the back of the unit under the eyepiece. Once you have removed the red disc and reinstalled the battery, power on the Razer GB with the measure button. You should see the display appear with the letters Y and HCD in the lower right corner. Adjust your eye cup so that you can see the full field of view and see comfortably and clearly. Next, pick an object roughly 20 yards away from you to focus on and use the diopter to focus the image as sharp as possible. You may have to play with this a little bit to get it perfect. Now that your Razer GB has been adjusted to your eye, it's time to begin customizing the menu settings. The settings are accessed by holding down the menu button for 4 seconds. Once the menu appears, you can toggle through the available settings by pressing the menu button once. To change an individual setting, use the measure button to toggle through available options. From the menu, you can choose between normal, first, last, and ELR target modes, HCD or BAL range modes, ranging in yards or meters, select one of 5 brightness settings, and one of 4 auto shutoff options. When in BAL mode, you will also be able to change ballistic profiles, turn Bluetooth on or off, and choose unit preferences for temperature, pressure, and wind speed via the menu. To begin pairing the Razer GB to your smartphone, make sure you switch it from horizontal component distance, or HCD, to ballistics, or BAL mode. The Razer GB will not pair in HCD mode. We also recommend changing the auto shutoff to 180 seconds to make pairing easier. Lastly, toggle Bluetooth on. To save your changes, hold the menu button down for 4 seconds or until the reticle reappears. You'll see the Bluetooth symbol blinking on the right-hand side of the display. Your Razer GB is now ready to begin pairing to your GeoBallistics app. The Razer GB pairs with the GeoBallistic app that is required to utilize the device to its full potential. The app allows you to change all the settings, calibrate the device, build firearm profiles, build maps, and range cards. You can download it for free from your device's app store. Once downloaded, open the GeoBallistics app. We recommend that you first create an account by clicking the profile icon in the upper left-hand corner and then select register. You'll need to enter your email address and create a password. Creating an account is not required, but it does allow the app to back up your rifle profiles and range cards online should something ever happen to your mobile device. To pair the Razer HD 4000 GB to the GeoBallistics app, select the Bluetooth symbol in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Look through your Razer HD 4000 GB and make sure that the display is on. Select the Razer HD 4000 GB by pressing the ellipses. Press the plus sign icon. Tap on your Razer GB, referencing the last 4 digits of the serial number on the bottom of your rangefinder. This will connect the unit to the GeoBallistics app. Once connected, your device will show up on the Razer HD 4000 GB settings app screen with a Bluetooth icon next to it. The Bluetooth icon on the Razer GB's display screen will also stop blinking and remain on the screen. With the Razer GB now connected to your GeoBallistics app, you can adjust your Razer HD 4000 GB's settings from the settings menu. You're also able to determine which data the Razer GB can provide to the GeoBallistic app's onboard solver. You can toggle on or off whether the Razer GB provides inclination angle, target direction, range, wind, or weather data to the app's onboard solver. If you select off, that data will either come from your mobile device, need to be manually inputted, or pulled from a local weather station or a Kestrel weather meter. From the app settings menu, you can also adjust the auto shutoff settings. You can select between 30, 45, 60, or 180 seconds. Once you have your settings in place, it is time to calibrate your Razer GB. The Razer GB needs to be calibrated during initial setup and should be recalibrated every time you significantly change location, typically 30 miles or more. Calibration is important for the accuracy of the wind-bearing capture mode. Calibration must occur outside and away from large metal structures. To begin calibration, in your Razor HD 4000 GB settings page with your Razor GB connected and the Bluetooth symbol visible on the right-hand side of your rangefinder's display, select the Calibrate button under the Razor HD 4000 GB compass section. To begin the calibration, select the Start button on the app screen. You will see a video start to play that demonstrates the proper speed and turning of the Razor GB for calibration. Ensure you see Cal in the display. Orient your device so that it is facing away from you and the measure button is closest to you, and turn the device end over end 3 times. Then orient the device so that it is facing the left of you with the measure button on the right, and rotate it around in a full circle 3 times. Then orient the device on its side with the eyepiece closest to you and turn the device over 3 times. Repeat these steps until the GeoBallistic app indicates the calibration is complete. Select OK, and the date and location will update on the Razor HD 4000 GB settings page. Select the back arrow in the upper left-hand corner of the app to go back to the settings menu. Select the back arrow again to exit out of the Manage Devices page and back to the home screen. Now that your Razor GB is set up and calibrated, it is time to customize your GeoBallistics app with your preferences via the app settings menu. Select the settings icon in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. While in the app settings menu, you can change app preferences, ballistic preferences, mobile sensors, chart increments, distance units, rifle profile units, and weather units. At the top of the app settings page, you'll see HUD, chart, map, and comp. By selecting one of these options, that page will be the default home screen when opening the app. Under the app preference section, you can choose whether to utilize auto locate, which will use your mobile device's latitude for ballistic calculations. If you choose not to use your device's auto locate, you can also manually enter latitude. This section also allows you to set how many decimal places you'd like the app solution to display. You can also adjust whether you'd like to account for spin drift, Coriolis effect, or crosswind jump in your ballistic solution by toggling them on or off in the ballistic preferences section. Spin drift is a bullet's drift left or right due to the spin imparted by the bullet length in conjunction with your rifle barrel's twist rate and the interaction of gyroscopic and aerodynamic forces. We recommend toggling this to on. Coriolis effect is the effect of the Earth's rotation on the long-range shot precision, moving the target slightly away from the bullet's intended point of impact during the time of flight. We recommend toggling this to on. Crosswind jump refers to the small but measurable vertical influence on the bullet's flight path by a crosswind. For the utmost accuracy, we recommend toggling this to on. Within the mobile sensors section of the app settings menu, you can toggle on or off angle and compass to denote if you'd like to use your mobile device's compass and inclinometer when you're not using the GeoBallistics app with the Razor GB. In the chart increments section, you can select what distance increments you'd like for the chart to be laid out in. For example, you can see solutions for every 5, 10, 25, 50, or 100 yards or meters. Within the distance units, you can select if you'd like distance displayed in yards or meters. When connected to the Razor GB, the distance option selected will be displayed in both the app and in the rangefinder. Under the Rifle Profiles Unit section, you can select inches or centimeters for length measurements and feet per second or meters per second for velocity measurements. Finally, you can set your preferences for your weather units. Choose between inches of mercury, INHG, or millibars, MB, for pressure, Celsius or Fahrenheit for temperature, feet or meters for density altitude, and miles per hour or meters per second for wind speed. Weather unit selections will be displayed in both the app and the rangefinder. Once you have customized the app settings for your preferences, select the back arrow in the upper left-hand corner of the screen to return to the home screen. Now that your Razor GB and app settings are ready to go, it's time to select your rifle profile. The Razor GB comes preloaded with 3 common firearm profiles you can choose from. Profile A is .308 Winchester, Profile B is 6.5 Creedmoor, and Profile C is .223 or 5.56. To do this, enter the Rifles page of the GeoBallistics app by selecting the reticle icon located in the bottom left-hand corner of the home screen. Once in the Rifles screen, select the Razor HD 4000 GB rifles to drop down the menu of the preloaded profiles. Since we are shooting a .308, we are going to select Profile A. The app will prompt you with the "Are you sure you want to switch rifles?" Select Switch. The checkbox next to Profile A will turn gray while it syncs with the Razor GB and change to an orange checkbox when the active profile has been synced. If you're not connected to the app or you don't have your phone near, you can hold down the menu button for 4 seconds on the Razor GB until the menu is displayed. Press the menu button to toggle through settings until Prof appears, and then use the measure button to switch between A, B, and C. Once you have selected your desired profile, hold the menu button down for 4 seconds or until the reticle appears again. You'll see your selected profile letter at the top of the display. When you take a range, you will get 2 numerical values, one at the top of the display and one at the bottom. The top number is your range angle and the bottom is your range distance. After 2 seconds, the display will flip to a new view. These new numbers are your correction. The number on the top is your elevation correction and the number on the bottom is your windage correction. The direction you dial is signified on the left side of the display by a U for up or a D for down for elevation, and either an L, left, or R, right, for windage. Double check that your correction is in the same unit of measure that your rifle scope is. If it isn't, we will walk through how to customize your rifle profiles shortly. On the HUD tab, you will also see wind and shot information based on the data collected from either the Razor GB, the GeoBallistics app, or a Kestrel device. We'll walk through in detail all of these inputs in a bit. You are now set up to make accurate corrections and start shooting utilizing the preloaded rifle profile. All right, as you can see, we have our rifle set up here, and in addition to the preloaded rifle profiles, you can also build a custom rifle profile within the GeoBallistics app. Building a custom ballistic profile allows you to harness the total power of the GeoBallistics solver and fine-tune your corrections for maximum effectiveness in the field. Today, we'll be building a new profile for our custom .308 built for competitive shooting. To create a custom ballistic profile, select the reticle icon from the home screen. Select the plus rifle icon on the rifle screen. Select the folder that you wish to add the profile to. We're saving ours to the My Rifles folder. First, name the profile. Ours will be named .308 Comp. Next, you will need to enter your bullet data. We are shooting Hornady ELD Match 168 grain bullets. You can choose to search the bullet library by selecting the search icon. To search, select your ammunition's caliber. Ours is .308 Winchester, and bullet weight from the list. Ours is a 168 grain. Then, select the exact bullet you are using. This information can be found on your ammunition box. The list is in alphabetical order. We will scroll down and select the Hornady ELD Match Multi-BC. One thing to note with this specific bullet profile, as well as others denoted as multi-BC, instead of one ballistic coefficient, there are 3 ballistic coefficients that are paired with multiple velocity ranges. Using multiple ballistic coefficients is a more advanced method of calculating your ballistic solution. If the bullet profile you have selected is using multiple ballistic coefficients, you can still manually enter a single ballistic coefficient. Bullet data can be manually added by clicking the Edit icon. To manually add bullet data, click the Edit icon. You must then enter your bullet's drag function. This information may be printed on the bullet box or on the manufacturer's website. In general, G1 is better for flat-based bullets typically used with pistols and muzzleloaders. G7 is a more common and better for longer, boat-tailed bullets commonly used for centerfire cartridges. You must also enter what meteorological conditions, or metro, was used to calculate the ballistic coefficient of a projectile, Army or ICAO. This information can be found on the manufacturer's website or by selecting a bullet from the bullet library from that manufacturer to see what standard they use. The difference between the two is very slight, but selecting the correct standard will yield slightly improved ballistic solutions at long ranges. Once you have your bullet data selected or entered, you will need to provide your rifle information. First, you will need to enter sight height. This is measured from the center of the rifle's bore to the center of the optic. Ours measures at 1.75 inches. Next, input the zero range, which is the distance at which you have zeroed your rifle. This rifle is zeroed at 100 yards, so we'll enter 100. You can enter an elevation offset, which is the vertical offset from the point of aim at your zero distance. For example, if you enter 100 yards for your zero range, and at 100 yards your point of impact is 1 inch high, enter 1 here. If it's 1 inch low, enter -1 here. For the windage offset, enter the horizontal offset from the point of aim at your zero distance. For example, if you enter 100 yards as your zero range, and at 100 yards your point of impact is 1 inch right, enter 1 here. If it's 1 inch left, enter -1 here. If your point of impact is dead on both vertically and horizontally at your zero distance, leave these values at 0. We will leave them at 0 for this setup. Next, enter your barrel twist rate, which is the distance covered for each revolution of the bullet within the barrel. For example, our barrel is denoted as a 1 in 10. This means the bullet will complete 1 full rotation every 10 inches, and we will enter 10 for this value. If your barrel has a left-handed twist rate, denote the value with a minus sign before the value. You must next enter your muzzle velocity. Muzzle velocity is the projectile speed as it leaves the muzzle. You can find this information on the box for most ammunition or on the manufacturer's website. For an even more accurate solution, we highly recommend that you use a chronograph to verify this information. We used a chronograph to measure our muzzle velocity at 2,683 feet per second. An optional entry is muzzle velocity temperature. When turned on, this allows you to add recorded muzzle velocities as it correlates to the ambient temperature at the time of the shot. This can be important in fine-tuning your ballistic solution. If you toggle this on, muzzle velocity will be disabled in the field above. The use of a chronograph is required to record this information. At least 2 temperatures and corresponding muzzle velocities at least 10 degrees apart are recommended. We are going to leave this option off. Next, you must enter your optic information. First, denote your solution units, MRAD or MOA. This angular measurement will be denoted on the turrets of your rifle scope. Note, inches are not compatible with the Razor GB. Our optic is the Razor HD Gen 3 6-36 by 56, and our turrets and reticle are an MRAD. So we'll select MRAD. The next field is elevation sight scale factor. This is used to account for any inconsistencies in elevation turret tracking. Default is set at 1, meaning there is no tracking inconsistency. SSF is calculated by taking the elevation dialed divided by the actual point of impact change. For example, if 20 MOA is dialed, but the point of impact change is 19 MOA, the correction factor is 20/19. Equaling 1.052. Windage sight scale factor is calculated the same way, but would be utilized if the windage turret was not tracking correctly. As we're using a Vortex rifle scope, we don't need to worry about tracking issues, and we will leave these values at 1. The next fields are the GeoBallistics overlays, and they are completely optional, but a great tool to utilize in hunting scenarios to ensure you're making an ethical shot. The first section is vital size. This is an estimated size of the vital area of your target. The ballistic solver will take this value into account when calculating and displaying your ballistic solution in the GeoBallistics app. If the point of aim is in the middle of the vital area, the GeoBallistics app will show the range at which your bullet drop will be outside of the vital area. This overlay will be denoted in black on the ballistics chart. The next overlay is the energy threshold. This is the desired bullet energy at impact to perform an ethical shot. The ballistic solver will take this into account when calculating the solution on the GeoBallistics app. This is denoted by a red overlay on the ballistics chart. The final overlay is velocity threshold. This is the desired velocity at impact to perform an ethical shot. The ballistic solver will take this into account when calculating the solution on the GeoBallistics app and denote this range in yellow on the ballistics chart. As our setup is for competition and not hunting, we will leave these fields blank. Lastly, you can enter a muzzle velocity correction. This can be used to fine-tune the ballistic solver by calculating a hypothetical muzzle velocity based on your rifle scope, and ammunition. You can input a truing range and elevation, which is the shot distance and the elevation correction where the point of aim was observed equal to the point of impact. By clicking apply, the calculated muzzle velocity will then replace the muzzle velocity in the rifle profile. This process is essentially replacing predicted muzzle velocity with an observed muzzle velocity that was built from your personal equipment. Generally, the further the truing range, the more accurate the results will be. At this time, we don't have any corrections, so we'll leave this section blank for now. Once you have entered your information, the profile will automatically save to the folder you have selected. You can back out of the setup screen by hitting the back arrow at the top left-hand corner of the screen. You should see your newly created profile in the drop-down list of the folder in which you saved it. Ours is saved in the My Rifles folder. To edit the profile at any time, click the ellipses to the right of the profile's name and click Edit. You can also copy this profile by pressing the ellipsis and selecting Copy and renaming it to use it as a basis for a new profile for the same setup with slight modifications. To delete a profile, press the ellipses icon and select Delete. Note, it is required to have a minimum of 3 complete rifle profiles. To load the new profile to the Razor GB Rangefinder, select the Sort icon at the top of the rifle screen. Press and drag your profile to the Razor HD 4000 GB Rifles folder. The top profile under this folder will be identified as A, the second as B, and the third as C within the Razor GB. There can only be 3 profiles in this folder at a time. You'll need to press and drag one of the preloaded profiles into another folder. Click Save in the upper right-hand corner to save your selections. The checkbox next to your profile will be gray while the new profile is syncing to the Razor GB and will turn into an orange checkbox once it has synced. One last thing to note is that your custom ballistic profile is a very precise and important piece of data used by the GeoBallistics solver. Minor changes to your firearm can have major implications for the accuracy on corrections you receive from your Razor GB. If you alter any part of your firearm system after creating a profile for it, for example, adding a suppressor, we recommend copying the profile and creating a second one that factors in the new variables at play with the suppressor installed. Now that we've got our custom ballistic profile built and synced to the Razor GB, it's time to capture our wind and weather. The Razor HD 4000 GB comes equipped with 2 wind modes, full crosswind mode and wind bearing capture mode. It assumes any wind is coming from the full 9 o'clock, wind blowing from left to right, or the 3 o'clock position, wind blowing from right to left, relative to the direction you are ranging. To enter the wind speed, press the measure button to turn on the Razor GB. Make sure you're in BAL mode. You will see a 0 on the right hand side of the reticle. The 0 indicates that there is no significant wind. To change your wind, press the right hand arrow button or the left hand arrow button to increase the wind speed until the correct wind speed and direction is displayed. Pressing the right hand arrow button indicates the wind is blowing from the 3 o'clock position. Pressing the left hand arrow button indicates the wind is blowing from the 9 o'clock position. You will see an arrow appear next to your entered wind speed to indicate the direction the wind is blowing from. To decrease the wind speed, press the opposite wind direction button until the correct wind speed and direction is displayed. Pressing both wind direction buttons simultaneously will 0 the wind speed and direction. The Razor GB is also equipped with our patented wind bearing capture mode. In wind bearing capture mode, the Razor GB will utilize its compass to keep track of wind direction, regardless of the direction the user is facing. This mode is excellent if you have a wind coming in from an odd angle, is varying greatly in direction and speed, or if you're frequently changing your position and direction. To enable this mode, press and hold the wind bearing capture button for 2 seconds until the word wind appears at the bottom of the display. Both the left and right arrow icons beside the 0 will turn on, and 3 dashes followed by a degree symbol will appear across the top of the reticle. To use this mode, stand so that you face directly into the wind and press the wind bearing capture button once. A value in degrees from the compass will appear at the top of the Razor GB's display. Next, Enter the speed at which the wind is blowing using the right-hand arrow button to increase the wind speed. To decrease the wind speed at any point, utilize the left-hand arrow button. If you need to change the wind bearing at any point, simply face into the wind and press the wind bearing capture button again. If the wind should change significantly or the speed were to die down, you can also press and hold the left and right wind buttons simultaneously to zero the wind speed. To exit out of wind bearing capture mode, hold the wind bearing capture button down for 2 seconds. The left and right arrows will flash and eventually disappear, signaling you are now in full crosswind mode and the wind value will be 0. In addition to the compass and inclinometer, the Razor GB comes with onboard environmental sensors that capture temperature, pressure, and humidity. By default, the Razor GB utilizes its onboard sensors to analyze its surroundings. If you need to use your Razor GB before it has had time to acclimate to its surroundings, you can manually enter wind and weather information utilizing the GeoBallistics app. From the app's home screen, select the weather icon from the bottom of the screen to open the atmospherics page. Under the active profile, you can press the wind direction button while facing into the wind to capture the wind bearing. Next, input wind speed. Wind 1 will be the first wind in the solution, and wind 2 will be displayed as the second wind in the solution. Temperature, pressure, and relative humidity can be manually entered under the weather section, or you can choose to manually enter the density altitude. Note that any manually entered data will be overwritten once you range with the Razor GB while it's connected to the GeoBallistics app with the data collected from the onboard sensors of the Razor GB. You can toggle off the wind and weather data from the Razor GB on the Razor HD 4000 GB settings page in the GeoBallistic app if desired. In addition to receiving wind and weather information from the Razor GB or manually entering it, you can also connect a Kestrel weather meter to the GeoBallistics app or to the Razor HD 4000 GB via the GeoBallistics app. We have a separate video that takes you through this process. Lastly, you can also pull wind and weather information from a local airport as your weather data source. To do so, tap the arrow button under the online weather section to see a list of the nearest airports. Select the airport you wish to pull weather data from. The information from the airport will automatically populate in the online weather section. To utilize this data, click the Use icon next to it, and it will then be displayed under the active profile. Now that our profile and environmental information are set, it's time to start shooting. To range, press the Measure button once with the Razor 4000 GB. In the display, you will get 2 numerical values, one at the top of the display and one on the bottom. The top number is your range angle and the bottom is your range distance. After 2 seconds, the display will flip to a new view. These new numbers are your correction. The number on the top is your elevation correction and the number in the bottom is your windage correction. The direction you dial is signified on the left side of the display by a U for up or D for down for elevation and either a L left or R right for windage. Well, it's not necessary to utilize the GeoBallistics app once you've set up your ballistic profiles and synced them to your Razor GB. There are some helpful screens you can utilize while shooting for quick reference and adjustments. The first screen you might want to utilize while shooting is the HUD tab. HUD stands for Heads Up Display. At the top of the screen, you will see your ballistic correction and range. Next to the range are 3 dots that refer to any GeoBallistics overlays you may have set. If the black dot is filled in, you are within your max vital range. If the red dot is filled in, you are within your range for your identified energy threshold. And if the yellow dot is filled in, you are within your range of your velocity threshold. This is a quick indicator to let you know you are within range to make an ethical shot on an animal based off of your specified overlays. Next, you will see which profile you have selected, followed by your wind direction and wind speed. Wind speed can be manually changed from the screen. Below is the measure button. If connected to your Razor GB, a Bluetooth symbol will appear on the measure button. This button can be used like a remote to range with the Razor GB from the app. The arrow to the left and right of the measure button can be used to manually change the ranged value. You will also see your shot angle and shot direction displayed. Under the target section, you may select the speed and direction of a moving target to add to your ballistic solution. On the bottom of the HUD tab is your ballistic data based off of your selected profile. This is a great quick reference screen to utilize while shooting. Another helpful screen is the chart tab. The chart tab is a great reference chart of effective ranges and holdovers at different distances. At the top, you will see your shot angle and direction as well as your range. You may manually input this data on the screen to change your ballistic solution. You should see your selected profile in the center of the screen. At the bottom of this tab is a chart that contains ballistic solutions at set range increments. You can change these increments and units from the app's settings menu. If you have any GeoBallistic overlays set up, you will see your max vital range denoted with a gray line, energy threshold denoted with a red line, and velocity threshold denoted with a yellow line. These quick references will help ensure you are shooting from an ethical range while hunting. You can export this chart by clicking the export icon and export it to your photos, to your watch, or a CSV file that can be sent via email. This can be a great tool in prepping for the range or for a hunt. Another helpful planning tool is the Map tab. Utilizing Google Earth, on this tab you can locate your position by clicking the arrow icon in the top left-hand corner of the screen. While on this tab, you can use the shooter icon to drop a pin to denote your location and the target icon to drop pins for your target locations. While connected to the Razor GB, you may also utilize the rangefinder to range a target, which will drop a pin on the map representing the target's position. You will be shown on the screen the distance and direction of the target from the shooter position pin. If you click on the target, you will see the ballistic correction on the bottom of the screen for that target. If the target position is far enough away, any GeoBallistics overlays you have set will appear as a black dashed line for max vital range, a red dashed line for energy threshold, and a yellow dashed line for velocity threshold as quick references to see your ethical range while hunting. Once you have dropped all your targets, you can save your map to your range card folders by clicking the floppy disk save icon. You can also export them as a range card to your comp tab by clicking the export icon. The map view is available in topographical, road view, hybrid view, or satellite view. You can toggle through these views by pressing the map icon. The map tab is a great tool for planning a hunt or building out a range card. The last tab is the comp tab. The comp tab is a useful tool to build, save, and export range cards. To add a target to your range card, make sure you have your desired rifle profile selected. Then, range your target with the Razor GB or manually enter shot angle, direction, and range. Press the plus target button to save the ballistic solution. You will see the ballistic solution appear at the bottom of the screen. Repeat this process for additional targets desired. You can modify any of the saved ranges by clicking the edit button and clicking the box next to the target you wish to edit, or select the box next to select all targets. You may also reorder the target entries by either pressing the up and down buttons or by typing the order number in the space provided. Click Save to save your changes. You can also click Clear to delete all target entry data. Once you have at least one target entry saved, you may wish to modify the holdover setting by clicking the plus or minus buttons. This setting can be used to set the elevation value on the reticle you plan to use as a holdover. For example, if you add a suppressor to a gun that is already zeroed and it changes point of impact by 0.5 mrad in the downward direction, but you do not want to re-zero your optic, you can change the holdover setting to minus 0.5 to update your drop chart to reflect the change in zero. Once you've created your range card, you can save the data to your range card folders by clicking the save icon. You can also export the data to your photos, watch, email as a CSV, or export it to an eDope by pressing the export icon. To access your saved range cards and maps at any time, click the folder icon at the bottom of the screen. The Comp tab is a great tool to build and save range cards for your local ranges or prepping for competitive shooting matches. Now that you've got your Razor HD 4000 GB and GeoBallistics app customized for your setup, you're ready to call your most accurate corrections ever. If you have any other questions about the Razor HD 4000 GB or GeoBallistics app or any of our other products, please don't hesitate to reach out in the comments below, on the phone, or on any of our social media. We are always here to help. We'll see you on the range.